December 27, 2025, around 4 a.m. Moscow time. 6 FP-5 Flamingo cruise missiles, each carrying 1,150 kilograms of high explosives, crossed the Barents Sea at a speed of 850 kilometers per hour. Where were they headed? Their target, the Gadzhiyevo Naval Base, home to Russia's Borei-class nuclear ballistic missile submarines, and a cornerstone of Putin's nuclear deterrent. Was this Ukraine's most daring military operation since 2022? So how did Kyiv manage to launch an attack deeper into Russian territory than previous ones, 2,100 kilometers away from Ukrainian soil? That's a closed box, but I'll explain what I know in this video. The snow-covered Kola Peninsula lay silent under polar night darkness. Inside Gadzhiyevo's command bunker, 400 meters into solid granite, Admiral Dmitry Sokolov monitored the Northern Fleet's crown jewels. 4 Borei-class submarines loaded with RSM-56 Bulava intercontinental ballistic missiles. Frost clung to steel walls. Encrypted communications crackled through speakers as routine patrols reported nothing unusual. Sokolov had commanded Gadzhiyevo for 11 years. The base represented Russia's ultimate insurance policy. 50 hardened weapons bunkers. Nuclear warhead storage capable of housing 200 SLBMs. Tonight felt different. For 3 weeks, Ukrainian intelligence had mapped Russian air defense rotations. GUR operatives inside Russia provided real-time updates on S-400 positions. Norwegian radar stations tracked Russian interceptor patterns from just 65 kilometers away. Firepoint had produced 7 FP-5 Flamingo missiles per day since October. Each 6-ton weapon could travel 3,000 kilometers, putting targets west of the Urals within Ukrainian range. The plan? Saturate Russian defenses with 127 FP-1 drones from the south. Then launch 6 Flamingos on a northern trajectory, skimming 50 meters above the Barents Sea. Major Irina Voloshina commanded the strike from Kyiv. Her screens displayed real-time telemetry. NATO satellites provided Russian air defense updates. Swarm Package Alpha, launch authorization confirmed, she said into her headset, voice steady despite what she was ordering. Execute at 0200 hours. The FP-1 drones lifted off from concealed launch sites across western Ukraine at exactly 2 a.m. Cheap, expendable, but effective. Each drone carried 75 kilograms of explosives toward decoy targets in Kursk, Bryansk, and Belgorod oblasts. 30 minutes later, the Flamingos launched. Russian air defense radar stations lit up like Christmas displays. Officers at multiple command centers shouted conflicting orders as dozens of contacts appeared simultaneously across their screens. 127 inbound from the southwest sector, as 400 batteries swiveled toward the drone swarm. MiG-31 interceptors scrambled from Monchegorsk Air Base. Russia's layered defense system, designed to protect against exactly this kind of attack, activated with textbook efficiency. But every Russian eye was looking south. The Flamingos, meanwhile, had crossed into Russian airspace from the Norwegian Sea, flying so low their turbofan engines scattered spray from wave tops. Norwegian intelligence later confirmed they'd detected the missiles on coastal radar, but hadn't identified them as hostile until too late. At 3:47 a.m., a Russian coastal radar station near Murmansk caught a fleeting contact. The operator, exhausted after an 8-hour shift, hesitated. Could be atmospheric interference. Could be Norwegian coastal patrol. He reported it. By the time the warning reached Gadzhiyevo's command bunker, the missiles were 90 kilometers out. Admiral Sokolov's phone rang. The sound, shrill, insistent, cut through the bunker's controlled atmosphere like a knife. Sir, we have multiple inbound from bearing 045, low altitude, high speed. The Admiral's face drained of color. His hand gripped the phone so tightly his knuckles went white. How many? His voice climbed an octave. 6 confirmed, possibly cruise missiles. Impact in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Sokolov's training said activate point defense systems immediately. His instincts said this couldn't be happening. Not here, not to Russia's most protected naval facility. 3 seconds of paralyzed silence. Officers stared at him, waiting for orders. All personnel to shelters. Launch Panzer countermeasures. Alert Moscow immediately. But 240 seconds isn't enough time to protect a naval base designed for nuclear war. At 4:17 a.m., the first Flamingo struck Gadzhiyevo's ammunition storage complex with the force of a small earthquake. The 1,150-kilogram warhead detonated precisely where Ukrainian intelligence had identified conventional torpedo storage, far enough from nuclear materials to avoid catastrophic contamination, close enough to cripple base operations for months. The explosion tore through reinforced concrete like tissue paper. Secondary explosions followed as torpedo fuel ignited in a cascading inferno that turned polar night into artificial dawn. 16 seconds later, the second missile hit the dry dock facility where the Borei-class submarine Kyiv Vladimir was undergoing maintenance. The blast collapsed the dock's roof, showering the 170-meter submarine with thousands of tons of concrete and steel. Missile 3 struck the main pier where the ballistic missile submarine Generalissimus Suvorov sat moored. Though the submarine's hull wasn't breached, designed to withstand nuclear near misses, the missile loading crane beside it exploded in a fireball visible from space. Russian Pantsir S one-point defense systems finally locked onto missiles 4 and 5, destroying them 800 meters from their targets. Flaming debris rained across the base like apocalyptic hail. The sixth Flamingo, the one that mattered most, followed a different trajectory. Ukrainian planners had saved it for the Okolnaya Bay SLBM storage facility, 7 kilometers north. 50 reinforced bunkers, each housing 4 submarine-launched ballistic missiles worth $40 million apiece. It struck at 4:18 a.m. The warhead penetrated 3 meters of reinforced concrete before detonating inside Bunker Complex 7. While Russian officials would later claim minimal damage, satellite imagery told a different story. One entire bunker collapsed, structural damage visible on 2 adjacent facilities, and a fire that burned for 11 hours. The silence in Voloshina's command bunker lasted exactly 8 seconds. Then phones exploded with incoming calls. Satellite feeds confirmed multiple impacts. Norwegian seismic stations had detected the explosions. Even American intelligence was calling for clarification. All missiles detonated on target, the targeting officer reported, voice shaking slightly. Preliminary damage assessment, catastrophic. Voloshina allowed herself one deep breath before responding. Encrypt all telemetry, prepare after-action report, and someone get President Zelensky on secure comms. Within 90 minutes, CNN interrupted programming with breaking news. Reports of massive explosions at a Russian naval facility in the Arctic. Early indications suggest Ukrainian strikes against the Gadzhiyevo submarine base, home to Russia's nuclear ballistic missile fleet. BBC World Service cut to live coverage. If confirmed, this represents Ukraine's deepest strike into Russian territory and the most direct attack on Moscow's nuclear deterrent capabilities since the war began. Twitter erupted. Gadzhiyevo strike trended in 68 countries within 4 hours. Former NATO Admiral James Stavridis posted, "If Ukraine successfully struck Gadzhiyevo with cruise missiles, the strategic calculations of this entire war just changed." Russia's nuclear bastion concept, inviolable since the Cold War, has been penetrated. Russian military analyst Pavel Luzin wrote, "The psychological impact cannot be overstated. If Ukraine can hit Gadzhiyevo, what else can they hit? Moscow? Strategic rocket forces bases? Putin's bunkers?" Russian state media went into crisis mode. By 7 a.m. Moscow time, official statements claimed a routine fire at a storage facility, with no damage to strategic assets. But leaked videos told different stories. Civilians in nearby Severomorsk posted footage of enormous fireballs lighting the horizon. Workers at the base recorded apocalyptic destruction on mobile phones before security forces confiscated all devices. By noon, satellite imagery companies released before and after photos. The damage was undeniable. Multiple structures destroyed, submarine maintenance facilities compromised, and smoke still rising from multiple locations. President Putin remained silent for 26 hours, an eternity in modern crisis management. When he finally spoke, appearing at an undisclosed military command post in full combat fatigues, his message was defiant. Terrorist attacks against Russian territory will not go unpunished. Our nuclear deterrent remains intact and operational. But intelligence analysts noticed what he didn't say. No denial of the attack, no dismissal of damage, no promise of immediate retaliation. Former CIA officer Michael Vickers observed, "Putin's response tells you everything. If the damage were truly minimal, he'd be showing off undamaged submarines by now." His silence is the loudest confirmation possible. The strategic implications rippled outward. If Ukraine could strike Gadzhiyevo 2,100 kilometers from Ukrainian territory through some of the world's densest air defenses against Russia's most protected military installation, then Putin's entire defensive posture was obsolete. NATO military planners quietly updated their assessments. Russian invincibility, already damaged by failures in Ukraine, took another devastating hit. The psychological warfare victory might outweigh even the physical damage. By December 29th, independent damage assessments estimated $740 million in direct losses. One Borei-class submarine potentially disabled for years, missile loading infrastructure destroyed, weapons storage compromised, base operations crippled. More importantly, Russia's aura of untouchability shattered. Norwegian intelligence sources confirmed what everyone suspected. Russia had been caught completely off guard. Their air defense network, supposedly impenetrable, had been outmaneuvered by Ukrainian tactical innovation, using cheap drones as decoys while premium cruise missiles struck from an unexpected vector.